Hello and welcome to Rate Sports. Make sure you like, subscribe for more NBA content, and let's get right into this video. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Bradley Beal, the Rockets, Victor Oladipo, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's start right off with Bradley Beal. Okay, so the Warriors are getting ready to offer the Wizards a trade for Bradley Beal. And this is a little interesting for me because I don't see Bradley Beal really fitting that Warriors system. I think he is a little ball dominant, a little too much for that system. I don't think he would play as great off ball as a spot up shooter as the Warriors like to play with those type of players. I just don't really see that really working out, but hey, you never know. Now, the trade will most likely include their second round pick and Andrew Wiggins. Those would be the key pieces of that trade, and this overall isn't a bad trade for Bradley Beal. You get a second overall pick in the draft, and you get Andrew Wiggins, who is he could be a solid player. Nothing much more than that. Now, Bradley Beal has stated that he wants to play for the Wizards his whole career, and he thinks that they can win there, and that is what he is trying to do as his ultimate goal. He said it's very unlikely and rare that you see a player nowadays play for one team, and he is trying to be that type of player. Now, it will be interesting to see because obviously the Wizards ultimately have that decision to make if they would want to move him or not. If they want to break up this duo of John Wall and Bradley Beal, who have pretty much done nothing in terms of playoff success. This has been a very underwhelming team. I thought they should have broke them up years ago. Bradley Beal has been in the trade headlines for the last 3 years, about 3 to 4 years. It seems like Bradley Beal is just always up in the air for getting traded because this duo just hasn't worked. This team just hasn't worked. This is very similar to a Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum on the Trailblazers, where I just don't think these duos will have playoff success and win. They can still compete, go to the playoffs. That's fine. But in terms of contending for a championship, I don't think they're on that level, and I don't think they're close to that level, and I don't think they can do it on that level with these two guys on the same team. I just don't think they're placed that will complement each other enough to push them over the edge to where it's like a Curry and Clay, where it's like, okay, well, they elevate each other to a whole new level. They elevate the team to a whole new level. Now, it will be interesting to see if Bradley Beal does get traded because the Lakers are also one of the teams who are interested in Bradley Beal and who can offer most likely a Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma. So it would just be interesting to see if the Wizards do take one of these trades or if they do just try to buckle down and win with the guys that they have on this roster. I guess we would just be able to tell as time goes on what ends up happening with Bradley Beal in this situation. Ever since Mike D'Antoni announced he wasn't going to come back for the Rockets, there have been a lot of trade talks involving this team, mainly Harden and Westbrook. Now, since Brett Brown was fired from the Sixers, and there was talks that if D'Antoni got that job, he would bring over Harden or at least entice him to join via a trade. Now, since Doc Rivers got that position, the James Harden trade talks have died down, but the Westbrooks have not. Westbrook has said that he will be willing to play for the Knicks, and the Knicks were reportedly willing to take on that contract. The other trade involving Westbrook was for a Joel Embiid and Westbrook trade. However, I think this would be a 3-team trade if it did happen, because you would be out of your mind if you would pair up Ben Simmons and Westbrook on the same team for obvious reasons. Now, the 3-team trade would probably include the Knicks, and that would mean Joel Embiid goes to the Rockets, Westbrook goes to the Knicks, and the Sixers would get a couple role players and some picks to the point where they can do a soft rebuild. They still have Ben Simmons. They'll get some role players, some guys to fill up the roster, and they still have picks from the Knicks and other teams for years to come. This will give the Sixers a chance to still compete and still make the playoffs while still having picks and having future success, similar to what the Celtics did in their situation in their trades. Now, I do still believe that the Rockets should trade Westbrook, and I thought that they would this offseason. However, this has been put to rest by the Rockets, saying how they are going to keep their core of this team together, how they are not looking to trade their guys, how they believe that this is the team that can contend, and not only contend, but win a championship. Now, with Daryl Morey not coming back, I thought this was the perfect chance for them to shake it up, move Westbrook or move a couple pieces around and reframe this team to point where they can come back and have a new identity, a new look, and actually have a good shot at competing, as this analytic basketball just has proven not to work. But they are having a new coach, a new GM, so maybe their identity still will change, but their core will stick the same. It will be interesting to see how this all ultimately plays out for the Houston Rockets. Now, jumping over to Victor Oladipo, he has interest in joining the Heat, but the Heat are not that interested in him, and this comes to no surprise, as him and Jimmy Butler pretty much play the same sort of game. They both are great defenders, and they both play the offensive game pretty much the same way. They both like to attack. They both like to get a mid-range shot. Jimmy Butler, who does have a better mid-range, but Victor Oladipo has a better three. They both do similar passes. Their movement is very, very similar. They both are best when the ball is in their hand. They both can play off ball a little bit, but when the ball is in their hand and they're the main player, that's when they play best. And you see that with Jimmy Butler in the finals when Goran Dragic went down. He was able to elevate his game to another way that people were honestly shocked to see, because before this, people were saying he's not even a superstar. And after this, they were putting him in their top 10 players in the NBA right now. In terms of them fitting together, playing together, I just don't see it being a good fit. And I could see why the Heat wouldn't want that, especially when Goran Dragic does come back. He will take away the ball from Jimmy Butler, and then you just add another guy in there, Victor Oladipo, who would do the same. It just doesn't seem like it would be a good fit. You kind of want the ball in Jimmy Butler's hand as much as possible. And Goran Dragic, it seems like the Heat's best addition will be a 4 or a 5 type of player who could complement Bam Adebayo and play at the same time. Now, the Heat have showed interest in Jeremy Grant, and that is a perfect player for them. That is a player who can push them over the edge into having a good shot at going back to the finals. He's a player that could play the 4 or the 5. He is a player that can not only space the floor, but he can attack the rim off the dribble. He can play off ball, spot up in the corner. He can play great defense to the 3 to the 5. He is someone who is very mobile, very athletic. He will be a great addition to that team if the Heat can get him. Now, I think that would be a dangerous lineup when you just look at it as Goran Dragic. You have either Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson. You have a Jimmy Butler, and then a Jeremy Grant and Bam on the court to close out those games. That is lethal. That is nasty. That will be a solid team, and like I said, I think that team has a shot to go back to the finals if the Heat can pick him up. Jeremy Grant has obviously drew interest from a lot of teams with his play in the postseason. It will be interesting to see where he ultimately ends up. Now, going over to Giannis, the Bucks have stated that they are not going to trade him. They believe they can entice him to stay by getting a team around him that can compete for championships. Now, Giannis has said he wants to stay with the Bucks for his entire career, but he has also said that he feels like winning a championship is the most important thing in his career. And if he feels he can't do so in Milwaukee, and he feels like people don't want to go and play for the Bucks, he said he will be open to leaving and he will start to look elsewhere to win. And a lot of times players do say they want to stay with an organization, stay with a team, because it is the right thing to say, and people get caught up in a moment sometimes or put on the spot. Now, you've seen that happen with Kyrie in Cleveland, then in Boston. You've seen it happen with KD, with the Thunder. You've seen it happen a numerous amount of times where players say that they want to stay or they plan on staying, and then they end up either requesting a trade or just signing elsewhere in free agency. It would be interesting to see what happens in Giannis's case if he does stay with the Bucks or if he ends up signing somewhere else. Now, I think the Bucks are just in a mentality like, okay, well, we're not just going to give him up. If he decides to leave, he decides to leave. But we will not be the ones. We will not be the reason why Giannis is not on the Bucks. It will be up to him to leave. I'm going to leave it there with this video. Make sure you like, subscribe for more NBA content. And I will see you later.